Hi, Capstone students. How are you? It is March 13th, and I am here just to um, talk to you about where we're at. I have 4 drafts to look at um, this afternoon slash evening, and they will be finished, and then the capstone submission box will be empty. So waiting for your submissions, and then I will again on Monday be looking at whatever you have submitted. I met with probably 5 students over the phone today, and we made some really good headway. I have another 3 students scheduled for tomorrow. So there are, of the 4 that I have left to look at, I may ask some of those students to contact me if that happens. What I usually do is post it with the responses in Blackboard, and then I send in a follow-up email. So just kind of watch for that if you're waiting for feedback. And we'll just keep moving forward. Most of the introductions, I want to say, except for maybe 2, have been approved. And remember, approved doesn't mean that they're perfect, but it means that they are meeting the demands of it. They have gotten through the feedback form and mostly everything is there. So at this point, we kind of leave the intro behind and move on. At the end of this conversation, I will speak directly to those students doing action research and school improvement. So as soon as we go through the document that I want to talk to you guys about, then just stay on and I'll have a couple minutes to talk directly to you guys about your projects and what you're doing. I just want to remind you that this is, while not an easy process, it is a process that I believe all of you are capable of meeting the demands of and being successful. What will it take for that is an open mind, an ability to accept feedback and learn, constantly going to look at your research, to really dig into your research, to become the expert on your topic, so that you can review the literature, which is really the purpose of the Lit Review. It's not a report, it's not your opinion, it's reviewing all of the literature that you have read and finding common threads, common themes, and synthesizing all that information. Is that easy? No, it is most certainly not. And so if you're feeling stretched by that, then you're right where you're supposed to be. As far as some examples, I continue to send out the feedback form that I use so that you can kind of see it has examples on it. I've been sending out pieces of papers. You can always go and look at capstone papers, knowing that we've had a series of instructors, and so you may see some things are missing that should be there, or there might even be some errors. And while that is really, we try to avoid that, it does happen. So you might notice those things, but hopefully you will be getting the spirit of what an action research project is, what a school improvement project is, and what a lengthy literature review is. Okay, let me switch back to, well, you know what? Since I got full screen, let's just go ahead and pray. I'd like to pray for you right now. Dear Lord, thank you so much for these students. Thanks for their willingness to embark on a difficult journey, but they know that it is the end of a long road that they've been on for a while to improve their practice, to expand their education, and to become leaders in this field. We're so grateful that they're at Northwestern, and we believe that they're here at such a time as this when the world is crazy, but they are committed and performing well into the task at hand. And Lord, just please give me the strength to get all of these reviews done and to be the right teacher for each one of these wonderful students. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example pieces from a student's submission, and this is a draft. And I'll tell you the story. When it came in, it had many similar issues that many of you are facing. It was reporting, there was opinion, some first person, the usual things that we're all kind of struggling with. So now, after some feedback and a conversation and another attempt, I'm going to show you some pieces of this paper, because it's definitely moving in the direction of a lit review. When you see something in red, that's a change that I made or a notes that I made to kind of show where they fit. So at the beginning, we have a statement. Primary concerns regarding the use of restraint and seclusion include the possibility of psychological damage, physical injury, and even the death of a child. That's a very good paraphrase. It is not a direct quote. If you notice in the parentheses, there are two different studies that are cited there, because both of those studies found that exact same thing. So in the best case scenario, you would want to see lots of chains of these, where you would have 2 or 3 or 4 different studies that all had a similar finding. You only know that when you do the annotated bibliography with lots of detail, including data. Remember, you need to state what percentage of students enjoyed recess versus music class, how many out of 100 selected blocks versus the reading area, depending on what the study said. You don't want to just say more students preferred the reading area. How many more? And just keep asking yourself those questions. But as you do that, you realize there's these common themes and threads, which become your subheads in your document. And then within the subhead, you have many researchers all commenting on that same thing. If you don't have 3 or 4 studies out of 20 or 30 studies in each section, then I need you to think about whether that is really a section, because there should be common threads among your researchers. In the next paragraph here, she starts to use one of her studies, and I want to show you how she does that. A study by Shireman and his team, 2016. You'll notice that's in red. So she had that at the end of a long string of information. And what I did was I bumped it up to the front. When you have a citation like Shireman et al., 2016, that means he had more than 2 co-authors. You can assume that's a team, and it's okay to state it as such. So now I'm going to go ahead and state that. Identified several ethical issues related to the use of seclusion or restraint in schools. These included, and then she goes on to explain more. At the end of this section, she really needs the citation there she said previously mentioned studies. What studies? So right here in this red area, she's going to list those studies. The disproportionate use of restraint and seclusion among certain groups, and I asked the question there, is that student groups? Is that certain grades of students? I didn't quite understand that. Was also found to be an ethical concern. And then there she's got her Shireman et al., because that's at the end of the passage where all the previous stuff was relating to that particular study as well. These aversive practices tend to be used with the most vulnerable student populations more frequently. Students with significant emotional and behavioral needs are among those who are most often included with aversive discipline practices. And then she has a string of studies that are all stating that same thing. And that because that really is the thesis of so much of the literature that she's been reading, that this is the issue, and this is why she cares about the issue. And so as you can see, it starts with a study, it gives information about that study, it's going to bring in other studies, which we'll have listed there, and then leads up or finishes up with a synthesis idea. This next paragraph, additional studies Additional studies, so remember, it's a review of literature. Additional studies have shown a trend of restraint and seclusion being used on younger students at a higher rate. An examination of 5 years of archived data from a public school in Connecticut showed that 82% of their physical restraint procedures occurred in K-3 grade, and 93% of their incidents of seclusion happened among K through 6th grade students. And then she states that citation. Okay. It is possible that she's going to have more studies that she finds have similar information, but remember, she's got specific data here specific to that particular study, so she's only going to have the one study cited after that section. Research data from a similar study confirmed that students with disabilities between the ages of 6 and 10, so if you notice, I flipped the statement that she had previously there to say, okay, we're shifting to the Trader study, and it's a similar study, which she said, and it was confirming what French and Wolicki, had said. And so those are those transitional words that really show I'm moving from a study to a study, and those studies are in fact linked together. So here it says, most diagnosed with a behavior disorder, emotional disturbance, or autism spectrum disorder are most likely to be restrained or secluded as a result of their behaviors. And she had a little bit of a wordier sentence there. And remember, succinct to the point is where we're at. And then she's got the Trader study there. And then she moves on to another section about historical perspective. Okay. And in this section, I just want to show you that she's got several different historical studies. So she's got a 2012 citation, which is fine when you're talking about older things that occurred. And she starts out by talking about this LaBelle work where they looked at the Hartford Courant newspaper did an expose about children being injured. And then here it says the researchers' findings motivated the U.S. Government Accountability Office to investigate. So that study led to another investigation. That's really important, and that's why I put that in red to show you that. That's a great way of connecting. And then in the next sentence, both inquiries revealed a lack of reporting and accountability. Don't get too big. Sections are relating to one idea only, and any researchers that come into that area. That's why we asked you in the checklist to list the subhead and all of the different researchers. Because if you only have one researcher in a subhead, it's not a subhead. Because a subhead is a lot of people speaking about a topic that is very important to many people. It's a common theme or a common thread. You'll notice that I've crossed out some things here. You're going to start seeing some crossing out as I'm getting deeper into editing. I will just go ahead and do that when something is unnecessary or wordy. Then it says nearly 10 years later, a similar investigative report by the National Disabilities Rights Network. So now we've connected 3 studies together. Exposed incidents of seclusion and restraint. She got repetitive there, so I crossed that off, and then there's the citation. Okay, I'm hoping that that is helpful. It's me. I'm hoping that that is helpful to you. I will go ahead and also send that out in email through the announcements in case you'd like to take a closer look at it. Again, it is not perfect. It is a student draft. But I think it's showing you kind of where we're going. And so as of now, if you are doing a lit review as your capstone, you can go ahead and sign off. I'm going to spend just a couple minutes talking to those students with action research projects and school improvement plans. Okay, so those of you that are doing those 2 projects, you're recognizing that you're turning in some different sections. Please carefully study the checklist that goes with both the action research and the school improvement plan so that you're making sure that you're hitting all of those different sections. Remember, there is not a template for the school improvement plan because school improvement plans are really different based on what what you guys are trying to do with the information. If you're providing a professional development or you're recommending that you guys do a study, or you want to put a new program in place, buy new curriculum. There's just so many different ways that, but the template for the lit review can really work for that. And then the sections are within the checklist, and you can also add sections that make more sense for you. I'm not so much worried about that because we clean that up later. What I'm worried about mostly at this point for both action research and school improvement is that you are getting those lit reviews done. Get them done, move them out of the way. That is still the first focus. Remember, that's shorter for you guys than the other students. But it's still a significant part of your paper. So you want to get that written while you're collecting your data. And then once you collect your data, figure out how you're going to use statistics to present your data. So you can use Excel. You can use SPSS as discussed in your research class. Many of you will want to hire someone or ask a friend who understands how to use those tools or statistics to help you figure out what you want to do with your data. That's for action research, okay? So that's where you guys should kind of be settling right now. School improvement plan, please make sure that you have data. That data is supporting why you needed a school improvement plan. So that should have already been turned in so I could take a look at it. If you have not done that, please go ahead and do that. And then you will be starting to design the intervention or whatever it is that you are going to do as a result of your school improvement. Please remember this is a academic paper. It is not a PowerPoint. You may create a PowerPoint moving forward to train your teachers on a particular thing if that's part of your school improvement plan, but you don't put that PowerPoint together. You just put together all of the information that would go in it is probably in sections of your school improvement plan. Like your timeline and what you hope to do and how you hope to get there and who's in approval about it. That's all stuff that will go in your paper, but it wouldn't go in like a presentation format. Okay. All right. So I'm super proud of this small but mighty group because you are doing just different work, and in some ways it's going to be a little more challenging, especially action research. But I'm proud of you and I think your ideas are good and I fully support you in your work. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help you. Have a really good Saturday.